Hello Libra, great to see you. Come on in just in time for your Libra March 2020 reading, and it's good to see you. Great to see my subscribers back again. Thank you for your interest and thank you for belonging. It's always good to see you. And thank you also to those of you. Last month, you may know, I said that I'd now put some time aside to be doing personal psychic readings over FaceTime or Skype for an hour at a time. Thank you for those of you who have contacted me to either have or book a reading, and thank you for telling your friends, because I know that a couple of you have also told your friends about how much you enjoyed the reading, and they've contacted me and booked as well, so I do appreciate that. If you would like to have a personal reading, just check out the description box below and we can go from there. Now let's get things underway for this month, which is, of course, the spring equinox in the north and the fall equinox in the south. North and south hemispheres, of course. Now I'm going to get the tarot underway, and I'm also going to use at the end of it some playing cards, 3 playing cards. Now, when I do readings, the playing cards are like a surgeon's scalpel in their precision as to telling you what is going to happen in your future. Now, this, of course, is a general reading, but they will still give general energy as to what is going on. So, let me know whether you do appreciate the 3 playing cards. I'll just deal with them very quickly at the end of the tarot section, which is, for our purposes this month, the main thing. Now, the imagery here is very good. I might use my pen to point out a couple of things, because the imagery and the detail on it evokes for me the messages and energies from below and above and beyond. There is the 8 of Cups. Gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. There's the Pope. Now, of course, this is a sort of a medieval deck, so the Pope, of course, in Europe, in Western Europe, was the big man in town at that time, so don't be put off with these things from a religious point of view. It's actually really more what the energy is signified from it. It's certainly not a Catholic reading or anything like that. There's the Queen of Swords. Well, the Queen of Swords, gee, you know, funnily enough, I see quite a lot of you in the Queen of Swords. Just getting that energy up. I have to see whether that stays with me when we do the reading for you. I love doing readings for you. It's I always enjoy it. I always imagine the Libra women. The Libra woman, of course, is just beautiful, as I've probably said before, but there we go. Now there's the 3 of Wands. Fascinating. Oh, that's quite, look, I only want one more, so I'm not going to take those 2 that jumped out, but I will take that from the middle, whatever it is. And there's the King of Swords. Well, who have you got? The Queen of Swords and the King of Swords. The husband and wife of the suit of air. Let's have the 3 playing cards that I said I would take, and because I am a man of my word, then take them I shall. Let's see what there is here. Okay, come on out, come out, come out, whoever you are. The Jack of Hearts. The Ace of Hearts. And the 5 of Spades. Okay, come and sit down next to me. We can get a good close look at these cards together and get our fascinating reading underway. All right, Libra, let me now just get the vibe where you've got the King and the Queen of Swords here, and this means, I think, that this is a time when you are going to have to be really using your head rather than your heart. Let's have a look at the first image here, which is the Queen of Swords. Wow. Really rather an aristocratic looking woman, quite young, quite attractive, I think. She's in a twisted position. She's holding in her right hand with rather spindly fingers a sword crowned with a swan and with a globe that talks about the world. She's crowned by a couple of crescent moons, black netting covering her hair and her hands.
She has a snake bracelet. There is a raven at the foot of her left foot. She's on a Gothic column. And these interesting figures down here, I've just noticed these. Here are a couple of naked witches on broomsticks. Rather sinister-looking Ku Klux Klan-looking people. And here are a couple of horses with those black plumes coming from their heads, which suggest to me that they were probably involved in the carriage of, well, a funeral carriage carrying a body. Well, what does this mean for you this month? I get a lot of Libra in this card. I also think that a Virgo could well be of importance to you during this period. Look, this is saying, I think, that you must use your unbiased intellect in order to make a decision of a particular situation, drawing upon the facts that go with it from your experience. Now, empathy and compassion, I think, towards others may well distract you from making the correct choice, so it's important that you think with your head and not with your heart at this particular time. Do not let your emotions get in the way, but use fact and logic to make your decisions. Now, someone with these skills actually would be very good at counseling, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if people come to you seeking your advice during this period, and that the advice that you give them will be good. Well, so often we go and get advice from people, and the advice that they give us is no good, but I think that the advice that you do give will be good. This, I must say, is really not a time for you to be beating about the bush over a particular situation. A logical decision is needed. So you need to communicate clearly and concisely at this time. Cut through old patterns holding you back and see things as if through the fresh eyes of a child. So it's a time to dispense, I think, with the masks of life and have the courage of your conviction to move forward in a fresh way. I think it can also represent, I think, here in this position that you may well have spent some time cutting through your own masks, and you are now starting to feel liberated. Well, let's have a look at the king, the husband. Let's check him out, see what he has to say for you. Hello, king. Well, this is rather a young man, isn't it? He has blonde hair. He's dressed in the black armor, holding his sword upright, sitting on something of a sturdy throne. These are the clay tablets of the law. And he's on a clay throne here, a fired clay throne. Look at his stirrups that he would use for riding. They are, in fact, arrows. And we can see that he is suspended and sitting above in the air, like a Libra air sign. He's in the air above these blue clouds. But I think, well, this is the Lord of winds and breezes, and I'm getting a lot of Gemini here, that air sign. I'm also getting Taurus, because I'm getting the energy of the mind in Gemini, with the influence and stability and determination of Taurus. If I was to split him up, I'd say he's about 2/3 Gemini and 1/3 Taurus, but that Taurus being the last decan, that 20 to 30 degrees of Taurus, that final Taurus segment, which is, of course, the most unpredictable. I think that what this is saying is that you will be active, clever, skillful, quite fierce and courageous, but it's possible that you will be unreflective about the things that you go about. He is, of course, as the king, esoterically fire, and he is in the suit of air, and fire and air get on famously, producing windstorms, hurricanes, and forces of passion which originate in the mind. Now, if he's not soaring intellectually, then he can get lost in the dark clouds of the mind. Goal orientation, ambition, passion, vehemence, but quite flexible intellectual powers I think that you will have during this time, I've got to say. I think he's also saying that there's the necessity for a clear insight into a problem, and that you will get the clear insight into the problem. Now, this follows on from the advice from the Queen here, who was saying that this is a time for you to use your head and not your heart. And you'll be then working quickly, I think, to set goals, and don't let anything get in the way. I think that, nevertheless, that this is likely to be something of a restless period where you are transitioning and trying to get somewhere else, either in your everyday life or in travel. Again, the advice that he is giving is that it is a time to listen to the head and not to the heart, because he is someone, I think, who is actually more comfortable in his head rather than expressing his feelings. This might be someone who you know who has those qualities, I think, and could well be that Taurus or Gemini that I mentioned. I think that this is indicating a sort of a restlessness in all aspects of life. Maybe you want to break free from the workplace. Maybe you want to rejuvenate where you live and your surroundings. Maybe you want to think, look, I'm bored and I want to go and take up some sort of a new interest. Now, in a relationship setting, he can very much represent that love-hate type of relationship that we can sometimes see, maybe in ourselves, sometimes within others, where you get together with someone, you argue, you break up, you get together with them again, you argue, you break up. That very volatile sort of relationship, moving backwards and forwards, drama everywhere. Now, some people thrive on drama, don't they? But it can be very draining. It can be very draining as well. Let's have a look to see what this card has to say to us. And it is the, lovely imagery, the Eight of Cups. Now, when I look at the images that are inside here, this really represents a scene to me in total of life in general. Here we have a Christian crusader embracing a young woman dressed in pink. Now, in this cup here, we have the image of a youth confessing his sins to a friar. In this image here, it is that of a puppet theatre. These, of course, were very popular during the medieval and Renaissance periods, because, of course, there was no internet, there was no TV or anything like that. So that was great entertainment for people. Over here, we have, well, it looks like young girls from a balcony throwing flowers into the street for a procession. Here we have an eagle that has got a frog in its talons, and here is a mysterious hooded figure with the veil draped all around it, probably a woman. In this scene here, we have a woman who is being frightened by a spider. This is a prisoner locked away in prison, despondent at the situation that he has found himself in. And this is interesting. This is a figure of somebody who looks to me to be a person who has been possessed by a demon, and they have exorcised the demon. Well, I have Saturn ruling the first decan of Pisces. In a way, this is the lord of abandoned success. Saturn in Pisces. The number 8 here for me has a mystical association with the planet of Mercury. So we have Mercury coming into the card, and we have Saturn there as well. Saturn, of course, is about structure, organization. Saturn very often gets a bad rap, but Saturn is very much about getting you to do things that put your life in order so that you can move forward and obtain and do those things that you are here and meant to do, where you have kind of gone off course. The astrology for me and the planets, they are, if you like icons on the computer screen. When you see the Google icon on your computer screen, that icon is not Google, but when you press it, there's a whole lot of things going on underneath it. Well, similarly for me, I view the planets as being like icons, and they, if you like, are manifestation of an enormous amount of spiritual energy that is contained in the workings underneath, because matter and time and space have emerged from out of spirit. Now Pisces, of course, we have Saturn. Pisces, of course, the constellation is intuitive, spiritual, emotional, likes things like fantasy and things like that. And I think what happens here is that Saturn deadens down completely the waters of Pisces. Saturn dominates and suffocates the joy of Pisces. And there's also this flightiness of Mercury present, which is unable to stave off the advance of Saturn. And so we get the period, we get the feeling here of a period where at times there may well be the feeling of no growth. The other thing is this, that I say that it's Saturn in Pisces and here's Mercury. Well, Mercury is in detriment in Pisces, in ordinary astrology. And so that also means that there is for me, an astrological discord. However, numerologically, the number 8 is about manifestation, practicality, skill, and decision, the decision to do something. And maybe this is the things that are coming up from here, where she's asking you to make an unbiased decision on something. There may be some activity going on there before, and this might be this period which is going to compel you to do it. Because I think what the Eight of Cups is saying is that, you may feel that there is a period of stagnation in your life, and you almost kind of feel that I don't have a lot of interest in friends or the usual personal projects that I have. It's almost as if there'll be moments where you are going through the process of denying yourself pleasure, like a sort of a self-martyrdom. You'll have a sort of a feeling of lack of get up and go, which may be a reaction to you feeling empty in your life or without anything that fulfills you. And this is talking, isn't it, about moving on and doing other things and making decisions to go and turn your life around, to make the situation that you're thinking of better. Do you know, when this energy is here, I get a corresponding psychically energy from an angel called Rahael. Now that's one of the 72 names of God. I won't go into how those 72 names are derived now. But other than to say that there is a book of the Old Testament or Hebrew Bible, the book of Psalms, where the name Rahael substitutes for the word of Lord in chapter 16, verse 5 of the book of Psalms, which says, "The Lord is my allotted share and portion. You control my fate." Now, meditating on that verse and on that angel's name, you will find that with every step you take and each moment that passes, you will feel comfort, confidence, and a stronger sense of direction. I'll deal with this Pope because there's such a good card coming here, which shows how this is all working out for you. Can you see him? There's the Pope. Well, a jovial face augments the benevolence of the Pope, yet his hair is white and his face lined with experience. He raises his right hand in a blessing, and in his left hand is a staff with the symbols of, what would they be here? With the planets Mercury, the Sun, the Moon, Mars, Venus, Jupiter, and Saturn at the top, and there is the thunderbolt of Jupiter at the bottom. The 3 rings on his tiara, you see these 3 rings here? This first ring is sort of made up of elements of the natural world. This refers to, of course, the natural world itself. In the middle, there is the crown of thorns of the Christ figure in the Christian scriptures in the New Testament. And this represents worldly life and free will. And at the top, we have here the spiritual realm, represented by simple triangles and circles with a cross surmounting the whole. Now, these 2 pillars that are beside him, I've seen them before. I'm pretty sure they are the pillars beside an altar holding up a canopy in the St. Peter's Cathedral in the Vatican City in Rome. Yeah. At the foot of the throne, in this area here, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, yeah? They, from left to right, depict they depict the 7 vices, and they are, from left to right, pride, wrath, lust, gluttony, envy, sloth, and avarice. The Pope triumphs over the sins of the world. 2 monks kneel at his feet. And if you look at the platform itself, it seems to be tipping forward, doesn't it? Which symbolizes mercy and receptiveness to the needs of others. Very interesting imagery. Look, I think what this is saying to you is that, look, this is a time also, although you're going through this decision of using your head and not your heart, it is nevertheless not a time, I don't think, to go and produce any revolutions on anything. In a sense, I think there's a time for you to bide your time as far as external rules and regulations are concerned. So don't go upsetting the apple cart either in workplaces, or don't go driving around crazily and getting speeding tickets and things like this. There's also, I think, a time for you to pay attention to some of the traditions which affect your life and which are part of your culture, and to look at those traditions and to think upon them. Now, you may not agree with them, but at least think upon them and just say, if I looked at this another way, what would it mean? What would it mean? You see, there are traditions which have a surface layer, but underneath them, just as I mentioned, those planets have underneath them a lot of spiritual energy. Traditions beneath them have a lot of wisdom, and there's a lot of thought and energy by very many smart people over time who have brought them together. This can particularly be the case in religious traditions, or in family life, or in cultural traditions. Now, I think you're going to hear of somebody who's getting married at this time. If you're in a large company, I think you're going to do very well, because it's very good for people who are involved in large organizations, such as teaching, the medical profession, people who may be in law enforcement, people who may be in the military. I think it's a very good time for that. And I think that you may think also that rather than blindly following a religious tradition, look at the religious tradition in a different way to that which you may normally do and say, if this were a story, what would it mean? I think what we can say here is that you should have this thought in mind. I honor the sacred within me. I am inspired by learning and teaching. I am creative and productive in my family and professional life, there is only one voice that is worth listening to, and that is the voice of my own heart. Now let's have a look. You go back up there. Let's have a look at this Three of Wands before I do the playing cards for you. Well, the Three of Wands, the imagery is that there's nothing particularly evocative in a practical sense for us now about this. These are three mountaineers who are climbing up the mountain. Now, there happens to be a reference here to the Kabbalistic tree of life and the different stages of spiritual advancement that one might get. But time is going to preclude us from doing that. Maybe in a separate occasion I might do a video on it. But I think what we have here is we have the sun in the second decan of Aries, the 31st of March to the April the 9th. So that 10 to 20 degrees of Aries. The 3 has Saturn involved in it, and it's about birth and creation, manifestation. The sun, now when I say that the sun is in Aries, what's also interesting is that the sun in ordinary astrology is also exalted in Aries. And so this planetary placement is very favorable. Aries enjoys challenges, and Aries suns are happiest when their lives are moving forward. Now, at the end of this, what may well be soul-searching for you, I think what's happening is that you're coming up with a real plan of attack on how to move things forward. That's really the thing that I'm getting, because I think that what you have now is you have the direction, right? The direction that you need to follow and apply yourself in order to be your best and to be of service to the world. What this is also doing, though, is it's saying that, listen, in order for you to achieve things, you have to act from a place of integrity and willingness to help other people around you. So you need to look inside yourself and outside and examine and understand your virtues, and then trust yourself to make the right decisions in your life. All right, that's what these two were saying as well, isn't it? About time to make that decision. Use your head. Now, so you can trust yourself after having gone through that process of in some sense, thinking upon yourself and maybe having some internal doubts and then overcoming them. It's important to operate from a place of integrity before making decisions and to have clarity of mind, right? To have clarity of mind and heart. Now, that doesn't mean to say that you need to use your heart to make decisions, but know that within your heart, decisions that your mind makes are pure and they're right, and you're taking the best action to bring about the best result. Now, unless you have that clarity, don't act. But if you do have the clarity, then this is saying to you that this is definitely now the time for you to act. Let's have a look quickly at these cards, shall we? Here we have whom? This is the Jack. Now, Jacks usually refer to a young male, but there could be a female. There could also be a friend or a family member or a loved one. Because they're so low in the court hierarchy, the Jacks, they can refer to things which are young or fresh, or also to invitations or messages to be received. Messages that are very pleasant and that make you feel good, or gifts to be received. This can also refer to the starting of a new relationship. It can, as I say, represent this message, which is very good for your feelings. Now, if the Queen of Hearts was present, then I'd see a couple. In the psychic reading that I would do for you one-on-one, these cards have different meanings depending on how they come up, because they're windows into the other realm for me. But I think it could represent you or someone that you love. It may well be someone I think that you are about to meet, because it's fresh, it's new. Now, I have to say, this can also represent a young admirer. So you may well become a cougar. But it doesn't need to say that you need to pursue a relationship with such a young admirer, though it is here with this Ace of Hearts, but that the relationship could well be platonic. Then we have the Ace of Hearts. Well, the Ace of Hearts really is about the home. It's about the homemaker by and large. Hearts, of course, are about emotions, feelings, and all matters to do with that. Now, there's a possible change of residence which can be apparent when this comes up. There is a desire for affection or love. Again, it can be a new relationship beginning, because aces are about beginnings in this sense. They're also about endings, and it can be the end of a dispute or an argument. It can also represent good news coming to a family member or a friend. And it can actually also mean the establishment of a home with a partner, or it can mean marriage. In any event, it's a very favourable card with problems and troubles lifting. Now let's have a look at this Five of Spades. Very much about the mind and about breaking free, really. Sometimes it can refer to an illness, which is either literal or symbolic. Fives have a lot of energy associated with them. These can refer to changes in your lifestyle or the way that you live. It can indicate a change of a job or moving to a new location. It can also represent a journey or a trip. Now, I have to say, it can also mean interference from outside sources. Now, of course, it's very broad for us today, but it can have that aspect to it. And it can sometimes represent that you'll hear of a divorce or a breakup. But opposition and obstacles could be apparent, but they're temporary. And sometimes you may also hear of a depressed person when this card comes up. Well, that's the way it is for you this month.
Well, there you go. March underway. Well, let me just say this, is that you were fantastic during that reading, and I really enjoyed providing it to you. I love providing these readings to you each month, and subscribe and become part of the family and belong. And let me just say this, and I want you to remember this always, that you are a legend, and I look forward to seeing you next month. Until then, bye for now.